Well, let's examine now why we're so divided. I'm joined by Mo Lavitt, co-director of The Great Debate, which runs open debates on social issues. And we can also speak to Eleanor Penny, who's a senior editor at Navarro Media. Thank you both very much for joining us. Mo, to you first of all, is it Brexit that has caused these divisions, or is it something else?
No, it's not Brexit. I think most people are aware that what Brexit has done, it's kind of amplified the divisions that were already there. So I think in terms of blaming Brexit, I think the way Brexit's been handled has not exactly helped with those divisions. And the way we've discussed Brexit hasn't helped in terms of division. I mean, I think the way we deal with the divisions is going to be the telling case. We certainly don't seem to be able to deal with it in the old ways. I mean, in some ways, we're less divided than we were in the mid-'80s. I would argue the miners' strike had a much more kind of instability feel about it than we have today. I think it's how we deal with the divisions which are being aired through the Brexit process that's going to help us to find this sense of compromise and renewal.
And Eleanor, how do you think we have dealt with this? If Brexit isn't necessarily to blame, it has at least amplified the situation, hasn't it? It's brought a lot of stuff that people perhaps already felt deep down to the surface. How do we deal with that?
Well, it's clear that Brexit has very much exacerbated pre-existing divisions, both along the lines of class and wealth and along the lines of race and culture. We've seen a repeat of Leave campaign's initial starting point, which was rampant xenophobia and unapologetic racism, being kind of the basis of Theresa May's negotiating position. And if we really want to start solving those divisions, we need to start looking at the economic causes, at the economic roots of these divisions that politicians are playing on when they're scapegoating migrants, when they're scapegoating people of colour for their own failed economic model. And that means trying to repair and transform that failed economic model by ending austerity, restoring collective bargaining rights, and transforming the economy so regular people have a stake in it.
And Mo, you know, just in terms of what Eleanor's saying, it was something that the Sky Data poll found that vast numbers of people didn't trust politicians, that their trust in politicians had been eroded. How far would you blame politicians for the tone of the Brexit debate?
Well, the tone of the debate hasn't been great, and I think we're all culpable. We all use social media. We all talk about these things. The way political language has been weaponised over Brexit, I think, has been very divisive. I think I would question what Eleanor was saying there about this stereotypical representation of Leave voters. I mean, I think that is one of the problems. There are a great many Leave voters who feel very strongly about the way they've been kind of stereotyped as racist and anti-immigration, and some of those horrible sort of weaponized language we've used against Leave voters, and that has not helped in terms of division. I think what is better to understand is left and right doesn't seem to be helping us to kind of understand Brexit. It seems to be that the divide is between people who feel very socially conservative and those who feel very socially liberal. And those who feel socially conservative, I mean, Deborah Mattinson was interesting this morning on Sky when she was talking about how left behind people even use the term about themselves. They feel left behind. They feel that cultural change is happening rather too quickly for them, and their voice is not being heard, and they're determined to have it heard. And I think this is what some of the conflict is about.
Eleanor, I mean, it strikes me that in terms of what we hear, it does feel like a lot of people have become empowered through social media, and perhaps because of Brexit, something they feel very strongly about, to speak up and to say what they feel. But the discourse, the language that's used, the tone that's used from both sides, from left, from right, from Leave, from Remain, from Labour and Conservative, it has gone downhill, hasn't it? I mean, is it something we all need to temper now?
I mean, I think it's wonderful that people are having a say, and I think that's something that should be embraced rather than something that we should be scared of. We need to deepen our democracy and deepen the ways in which people can have their say. And I want to clarify something I said earlier. I don't mean that all Leave voters are racist. Of course they're not. And many people have totally legitimate grievances that have fueled Brexit in terms of how they've been totally left behind, as you say, by this economic model, particularly because we have one of the most regionally divided countries in Europe. But when we talk about issues of discourse on social media and whether or not we're being polite enough to each other, we kind of miss a trick, I think, because we're pretending that the real problems with politics are that people aren't being nice enough to each other, when really we should be talking about the violence and unpleasantness of government policy that's forcing 14 million people into poverty.
Mo, how can we unite the country a little bit more?
Well, look, I mean, I think there is a temptation for some on the left, certainly, I'm no fan of austerity myself, to blame it on economic circumstances. And clearly, anybody who's using food banks and in poverty, it's not something that we should find acceptable at all. But what this data poll reveals, and what Britain Thinks revealed as well when they spoke about this morning, is it's not just purely about economics. This is not just purely about a government policy of austerity. Unless we actually listen to what socially conservative people are saying. I'm not socially conservative myself, actually. I'm very liberal, but I have listened to Leave voters because I voted Leave myself for democratic reasons. And we're just not listening to those people that feel that their own way of life, their old way of life, is changing so fast that their own culture is kind of not represented. And I think unless people listen to that very real grievance that globalisation has left people bereft, not just economically, but socially as well, then we're really not going to heal those divisions. We have to listen to each other. It's not just about being polite. It's about taking on board what other people are saying that we disagree with.
Well, thank you both for listening to each other so politely today. Mo Lavat and Eleanor Penny, thank you both very much.